Actress Meryl Streep is facing a lot of heat over a t-shirt. Now, in the photographs shot for Time Out London, she and her Suffragette co-stars wore shirts with the slogan, "I'd rather be a rebel than a slave." Now, let's look at a picture of the t-shirt. Oh my God, how dare you. Now, before I go into the context, I do want to read some of the criticism because apparently some people were kind of pissed. Let's read this. Quote, from Jad Adams, who is a historian and author of Women in the Vote, A World History, told The Telegraph, "It is certainly an inappropriate thing to have 4 white women wearing slavery t-shirts." There was another picture where her and her cast members were together and they wore the same t-shirt. People talked about the emancipation of women. Their condition is nothing like slavery, but in order to make the challenge more exciting and ramp up the feelings of disenfranchisement, women like to compare their situation to that of slaves. More criticism. Jamil Smith, a senior editor at The New Republic, wrote, "The presence of the words rebel and slave alone should have had Meryl Streep picking up a history book first." He added, "More black folks around Meryl Streep and company might have helped, sure, but that can't be the excuse. There's a curiosity lacking here." Okay. Now, Sarah Seltzer at Flavor Writer wrote, "How did no one, not anyone at the magazine or on the film or actress's publicity teams, see those words and consider the context? No one said, hey guys, maybe we should pick up another line from the speech. No one said, hey guys, oh, sorry. The logical conclusion is that nearly everyone involved in the effort was so white that no one even noticed. If so, that reveals a bigger problem with the film effort." Now, they talked about context. So let me give you context. This is a quote from British suffragette Emmeline Pankhurst. Now, Emmeline Pankhurst is the character in which Meryl Streep plays in the film. Her quote is as follows. Quote, "I know that women, once convinced that they are doing what is right, that their rebellion is just, will go on. No matter what the difficulties, no matter what the dangers, so long as there is a woman alive to hold up the flag of rebellion, I would rather be a rebel than a slave." Now, when you read that quote in context, especially looking at British context, and for example, context matters, right? This is a British film. You don't actually have the same history with slavery that America does. Notice that it's a lot of Americans getting mad. Where people in Britain, they don't see the issue, they don't see the problem. Why? Because they don't have that same history, that same context with slavery, right? They also don't have the context of having fought a civil war over slavery. That's our context, and obviously we're a bit sensitive about it, and I understand that. I do understand that, and I'm sensitive to that as well. However, as I said, the context is completely different, and when you put it in context, it's not racist. It's not racist. How does this shirt even have the appearance of supporting slavery, as some have actually suggested? It doesn't. It actually supports the opposite, rising up against oppression. I just don't understand the outrage of these people. I don't get it. Especially, as I said, she's playing Emmeline Pankhurst, the British suffragette. She was a British suffragette, working to expand the rights of women to vote. It's ridiculous. Okay. Now, according to the magazine Time Out London, they printed something to kind of respond to this. The original quote was intended to rouse women to stand up against oppression. It is a rallying cry, and absolutely not intended to criticize those who have no choice but to submit to oppression, or to reference the Confederacy, as some people who saw the quote and photo out of context have surmised. Once again, I don't see how people could have gotten that. When you look at context, I guess if you take it out of context, you might think, oh, wait a minute. I might want to look into that a little bit more, if that says what I think it says. And then when you look at the quote, when you look at the whole thing in context, you're like, oh, standing up for women's rights, standing up against oppression. I would rather be a rebel than a slave. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Now, this isn't the first time Meryl Streep has faced criticism from people on the left. And I think that's primarily who was angry. She declined to identify herself as a feminist. Oh my God, no, how dare she? She's, oh, nope, not a feminist. She told Time Out London in an interview, "I am a humanist. I am for a nice, easy balance." T.O. Bugby wrote at the Daily Beast, In response to that, girl, I'm surprised at you. You, Mary Louise Streep, you are not a feminist? You, the star of Silkwood and A Cry in the Dark. You, who leap out of your seat every time another lady beats you for an Oscar. You, who are campaigning for Congress for the creation of an equal rights amendment. You, who railed against Walt Disney last award season for being a gender bigot. I don't know, it seems like your actions seem pretty feminist to me. At least that's the feminism that I grew up with, that I knew, that I was taught, that I believe in, raising up women to be equal to men. And, you know, if you want to call that humanism, okay, I guess you can call that if you want. That's fine. What matters is actions, and her actions seem pretty feminist, right? Her actions actually follow what she believes in, what she says she is. Raising everybody up. That's the whole point. That's what we want. And let's be honest, there are significant issues for women worldwide. And also, we also can't ignore men's issues as well. If we want to really hit gender parity, we have to look at both sides. Women have a lot more to go than men. They do have a lot more issues, and they need to be addressed. Reproductive rights is a good one. It's a big one. And that's under attack all over America. We need to focus on that. But you can't just say that men don't have issues. The whole idea of feminism is raising up both men and women to gender parity. Now, people, I think, get confused at that label. They get confused at the label. Now, and this is coming from somebody, and by the way, you know, I'm not a Meryl Streep fan. I don't think I've ever watched a movie with her in it. I don't really care for her movies. They're not interesting to me. But I do have an interest in stopping us on the left, liberals, from eating our own over basically what amounts to identity politics. I think we get too tied up on labels and identity politics, and even, yes, political correctness. We get outraged too often over stuff like this. And when we do that, we often ignore context. And I think when we ignore context and just get outraged just to get outraged, we end up doing more harm than good, especially to the things that we actually care about. So maybe we should stop doing that. Maybe we should stop getting distracted. Maybe we should stop getting outraged at the little things and focus on the big things. And that is actually doing something to raise women up, actually protecting women's reproductive choices, and actually protecting and protecting women's pay, working for equal pay, working for equal rights of not just women in America, but across the world. That's what we need to focus on instead of getting mad at a woman wearing a t-shirt. Priorities, guys. Priorities.